I played for Beach from 76 to 1988. And by then I was 37 years old. And that was just, I could no longer recover from what had happened on Saturday. By Thursday, I was still sore. And I thought, okay, that was about it. And I had kids to raise. And so that was it. But it was a good run. And I had to grow up eventually. I'm not sure I have completely by any means. None of us really do, yeah. I went to the reunion of my rugby club at Ohio State this year. And they were talking about how they picked the Hall of Fame, and they picked these guys who are all Americans. And I said, what's your criteria? And they said, well, if you were from, you played in such and such an era, and you were all American. I said, when I played at this university, there wasn't a United States Rugby Union. It was founded in 1975. And so some of what I'll be talking about today is pre-88. It's a different frame of reference. When I first started playing rugby in 1971, a try was worth 3 points. I'm now 72 years old, and in 1971, I went to a Ohio State versus University of Miami game. A buddy of mine had gone to Miami and said, you got to see this game. Like most of my contemporaries, nobody saw the game until he went to school, university. So I went to see this game, and the score, even with, they were either threes or fours. It might have been threes, was 33-32. And not only was did that happen in an 80-minute game that didn't stop, there were 4 games that day, and the A's played the A's and the D's played the D's. Nobody sat on the sidelines. And so I said, let's go. And that was it. And I started in 71, and I played through 75 at Ohio State. And I got my first job out of university with a company called Alum Chemical, and they transferred me to Seattle. And my good buddy Kirk Whitaker Jones was playing for OPSB. So I move in with him when I get to town, and I go to practice in July, getting ready for whatever. And we started playing rugby in really what was 1976 for OPSB. And what got me into it was what gets most of us into it, the spectacular nature of rugby, and the get to do everything, amazing amount of skills it takes, and then the fantastic camaraderie and social life that we all love so much won me over. I also like the idea that nobody ever sat on the bench. I always liked this idea that you could play for the Bees, which I end up doing in my last few years at OPSB. The tremendous nature of the game really sold me, and I went on my first tour, 75. I went to Wales and England. That's it. Once you go on international tours, you're done. You're completely hooked, and that's what got it going. This was a tour of one of the first ever rep sides. It was from the Detroit Rugby Club. It was called the Centenary Tour. It was the 200th anniversary of the United States. They picked the all-star team from the Midwest, and I went on that tour. And so I think there were 25 guys that went on that tour. We practiced on Capitol Hill. We practiced at Cal Anderson, what is now Cal Anderson Park, a lot. And it was a perfect location because our bar was the Comet Tavern right there on Pike. And so we could walk right over and be there within 5 minutes. It was a beautiful location. In subsequent years, I think we went to Delridge, but it all kind of blends together from the after playing years. But I think most of the times we were there on Capitol Hill. The games we played were in a fantastic place. We played right at Green Lake, right in front of the Spud Fish and Chips there, right in front of Jones Pool. We played there, and that drew some pretty nice crowds with people just wandering around. We were lucky to get any press in the old days. John B. Saul, who played for us, worked for Seattle Times, was a writer. and he would talk the sports guys into taking right articles he had written about our games, and now and then we'd get some press. But yeah, it was nothing like it should have been, and it should be. Another place we played was the Overlake School, which was a beautiful grass ground, all, really, really nice place to play. And so in town, that was kind of where we played, as I recall. And then Redmond they had a high school team we'll talk about, and we played out there in permanent post as well. In many ways, it's better than it is today, in that we played on grass. Probably played with between 40 and 50 players. There were no subs when we played. 15 on a side. So 30 plus. Could you fill a full C side? I don't recall us playing because other teams didn't have C teams either, as I recall. Very few. Seattle might have. Did the Portland Pigs? Maybe. But I don't remember much past the B team. And I don't remember what year we went to 2 subs. So you only now need 17 is all you needed. And it's a big change today with you need 23. The club can't really play in the BC League because we've got to play down here to play in the US League. And they want, you got to take 23 up there. So you really need 69 plus. So that's a lot to run 3 sides. We would have run 3 sides with 45. I don't know what it's like today, but we had an influx from everywhere. And a lot of people came to work here like me, but most of the people that played for us in the day went to college or had been to college. So everybody had a career of some kind and worked, and Seattle was a good place to come to. So we had lots and lots of talented players. You asked who was the coach back then. English guy shows up named Sid Batt, and Sid was one of our coaches. English guy, funny guy, reasonable coach, had a lot of funny witticisms, and I think we all remember Sid fondly. He got shingles once, and his whole head was, suffering from it and looked like shit. We had him in the bar one time, and we were taking the piss out of him, and it was horrible, wonderful. Dick Smith once said if he could, during his illness, if he could drag his leg and drool, we could get him a job as Quasimodo. And then Jeff Doctor was probably ran the club for the most years. There weren't many, assistant coach types. I don't remember, as there are today for a lot of clubs. I suppose, yeah, even the club right now, I know there's more than one or have been. We didn't really have a backs coach or a forwards coach, and it was kind of a coach. But our captains had a big role. Our captains had a really big role, and they kind of ran a lot of what we did. The main competitor, our main Derby side was the Seattle Rugby Club, OPSB and Seattle. And if you look in the records up until '88, we dominated that series. Seattle probably early on had the run of things, and then it feels like the late '70s and most of the '80s we dominated, and then everything started to merge together and things started to change. And I quit playing, and I've heard, and I think the record shows that Seattle probably became more successful as well, which was great for the city because we cared about how good a rugby we had, because we had the Washington Ravens and the Oregon guys. We formed the Pacific Northwest Rugby Union eventually, and then we had to play the Californians. Our main competitors were Californians. We cared about the Pacific Coast Club Championship the most. That was the highlight of our season. We would play we'd play in tournaments. The Monterey tournament was the highlight in the early years. There's no way to explain how fantastic it was. They rolled the bar carts out from the country club and had guys in pseudo tuxedos out there serving drinks while we were playing rugby, and people came from all over the world. Loughborough Colleges was there. Clyde Woodward played on the side. That played, I think it was the Old Blues in the final, club championship there at Monterey. Californians were really our nemesis. The old Blues of Berkeley they set the tone. They were the best there was. Ombak was really good. Santa Monica was really good. Belmont Shore comes on later, but those clubs were the ones that we really had ding dong with. And Portland Pigs were good. Portland Pigs had Mike Inns and Crevoloni and some other guys that became Eagles. And then Orsu, the Jesters, is who we used to play. We beat them handily. And then the Canadian games were few and far between. We would always take a Princess Marguerite tour. And that was the first trip I took, which blew my mind, to get on a boat in downtown Seattle, cruise up Puget Sound, get off and play these excellent teams, James Bay and Oak Bay, and have the parties and then come back on the boat. I mean, it was fantastic. And of course, everybody knows what British Columbia rugby is like. Arguably the best in North America, or it certainly was. So that was who our main competitors were. We didn't play in any leagues. There was no league per se. There was no league competition. It was all friendlies. And Valley was just getting started, and we'd play Skagit Valley and Mount Vernon. Chuckanut was our big rival. Excuse me for forgetting that. What am I talking about? Chuckanut Bay was a feared rival, and feared and admired, and we liked beating them as they liked beating us. Many Eagles came out of that program, or certainly Pacific Northwest Loggers. Jeff Lombard was their best player ever. But so we didn't really play in leagues. We played friendlies, and there's a lot to be said about that, because you can play wherever you want. It was great, and we traveled a lot. And the success of the team, I don't have the records in front of me, but did we ever win the Pacific Coast Club Championship? No, we never won the Pacific Coast Club Championship. Did we come close? Yeah, we got to finals, semifinals certainly. I feel like, in my memory, we dominated the Northwest, but Chuckanut and Seattle and Portland will probably feel the same way. With the number of great players that we had at Old Puget Sound, I think it's 16 Eagles over time. Rich Ederle came from Ohio with me. He was an Eagle. Our best player, maybe of all time, for a long time, was Ian Gunn, our first Eagle. A guy from Ireland shows up. He came over on a tour in '78 with the Grasshoppers. They were just on a social lark. And Gino McCarthy was his name. And Eugene never really went back. Kept him for our own. He stuck around and played for us for many, many years. A great player. Riddell made the Eagles too. I just saw a picture of our captain, David Tripp Clark. We all called him Tripp. He came from Seattle Rugby Club to OPSB because he wanted to play better rugby, he said. Tripp got leukemia when we were on tour, which I'll talk about, and Tripp died of leukemia in '84, which was a shock to us all. He was really one of our best players, and a wonderful, wonderful guy. We all miss him, still to this day in many ways. He was a potter. And one time for the first practice of the year, he invited the whole club to his home after practice. And the post-match party was we drank and made pottery together. It was really cool. Everybody got into it. Michael Griffiths was an English fly half that all of us will remember. And there was nobody like him in the Northwest. He tremendous fly half. To get these English guys to come in, like Pat Simmons came in. Pat had played for Canada, moved to Seattle, and I'm pretty sure they put him on the Eagles eventually. Played for Rosalind Park, had led the scoring in England from 1 year from Rosalind Park. Tremendous guy, tremendous player. It's really good for everybody to see the level of play, because Yanks, we don't even know what we're looking at. We can be dedicated, but we're playing ice hockey in South Africa. We certainly were then. We couldn't even watch it on television. We had VHS tapes, remember? And we'd have to try and figure out how do you watch this game? How do you even know what you're supposed to do in real terms? When I watch other countries, that's what I mean. I can tell that where they're playing a different game. The top 8 are playing a different game. It's pace and power and, positional, technical skills. They just are playing a cool game that we hope to do. And those foreign players really helped us raise our level. And so those are some of the most memorable guys. I think the guys from my era. Paul Dwyer is one of our longtime stalwarts. And Paul played forever. Bruce Palmer. Prince probably played for, I think he was still playing in his 50s, maybe 60s. He could be still playing today in his 70s. I never saw a guy could play more old boy rugby than Prince. I think all of us who play rugby, all have these characters, right? And I can't mention them all, but man, it was quite a crew, and they're getting together at the K&K for the Christmas party. My most memorable rugby experience, I would say, is the 1983 OPSB tour to New Zealand and Fiji. I've done a lot of other tours. I went in '87 for the World Cup with my old boys side from Ohio State. But in '83, it was a big deal. We took the Overlake school youth team with us, which Jeff Doctor was a coach, was taught out there, and he organized them. So we had 25 young kids, and then we had our 30, I think it must have been 30 something. I think we played 2 sides most of the time. We went to New Zealand and Fiji. And it was just, anybody who ever went still talks about it. It was really a super experience and eye-opening, and that was the seminal experience of rugby experience of my life. We went in '87 again, and I went to the first ever Rugby World Cup, and played some of those same teams. And as old boys at that point, and so we were there in Eden Park for the final with France and New Zealand. David Kirk did that, but that '83 tour was with this group was one I'll never forget. The troll John Meads and I, he was the president of Oregon Rugby Union, and I got together with him at the Portland tournament, and Meads brings a jar of moonshine for a 10 o'clock a.m. meeting, and we formed the Pacific Northwest Union. So I was the president of the Pacific Northwest Union. As the president of the Northwest Union, I was on the board of the Pacific Coast Union. I was on the board for quite some time. And then I was the secretary of the Pacific Coast. And then I became on the board of the United States Rugby Union from '86 to '88. I was president of the club like 5 times. I was president of the Pacific Northwest a couple times. I was president of Washington a few times. About roughly 10 years ago, I joined the board of the United States Rugby Foundation. And the foundation, as you may know, is basically the philanthropic organization that raises money for youth rugby, both women's and men's, boys and girls. And I think we're having some impact. We're helping them with little bits of facilities. We have a make a pitch program where Mike Girton, a great longtime Chuckanut and OPSB player, helped fund the Ellensburg Bulls. They took over a baseball field, and Mike helped finance it. Now they have a proper rugby ground. They're growing rugby in Ellensburg because they have a place. Doesn't hurt to have Central there, but it's both. We give away balls, we give away medical kits, and we give scholarships. We send a lot of boys and girls to lots of cool places. We're sending 2 kids a year to New Zealand to go to Nelson College. We send kids to South Africa. We do referees. One of our pillars is referees, and we fund that. We fund medical research and medical costs. So player development, all that sort of stuff. Everything that you want to try and do. The only thing that we don't have is enough money. And my generation now is probably getting into that stage where they start their estate planning. And some of our guys have already given us on paper some very large donations, and that's happening around the country. So we're hopeful that we can start to have a real impact on youth rugby. Well, one of the things I really want to talk about, though, is what are we going to do here in Seattle? And Flinny and I are working on trying to work on this facility thing, and we've got some ideas, but we'd really like to up the game. You know, when you go to Canada and you see Capellanos or Pocomo or Marilomas, or go to Vancouver Island and see James Bay, and you realize the difference. You know, it's a different feel when there's a place that's ours. And long after you're done playing, you can go there, you can volunteer. They have other events there, just like in Wales or Argentina or Canada. Those things become community centers. And we can use community, and always have been able to use community. There's always been dysfunctional things in life, and giving kids a place that people are going to look after them and help them grow up is a cool thing. And having a bar that we can all go to until we die and hang out is a cool thing. And so we're really hoping to try and solidify and improve our facilities for rugby, at least in Seattle. So we'll see what happens there. It's one of the things I'm most interested in. The other thing I'm interested in is seeing Seattle Rugby Club recruit better. I don't think people in the United States realize, until they are told, how great rugby is here. And if you go around the country comparatively, this place is really as good as it gets, because you've got British Columbia right in front of you. You've got all of California south of you. You have really better weather than almost any. None of the northern tier states are as good as this. When I came from Ohio, I was just like, never gets cold and never gets hot here. Compared to Ohio or New York or Minnesota, Wisconsin, Chicago, you know, all those places. In order to get those kids out here, Kevin's got Rugby Works in place, and we help everybody get jobs that needs it. It's almost a career counseling sort of approach to things, so that kids can come in, whether they went to college or not. There's something for them to do. I hired lots and lots of people over the years. I mean, I can't even tell you how many people work for me, from Tony Riddell on. And then a bunch of people have worked for Raymark Plumbing, and a whole bunch of people have worked for Chris Prentice's company, USI, and a whole bunch of people work for Christian O'Mara's companies. There's a way forward through our jobs programs, but I really hope that we can find some more energy and start saying, come to Seattle to play rugby. Here's why. Specifically going after the list of All-Americans or whatever. There's plenty of lists available. And so volunteer, please volunteer for the club. If you're watching this and you still like rugby and you want to help the club, believe me, they want you. I'd like to see, you know, a bigger mass of people helping the club be successful in all the little things that make a club great, male and female. Come on out and enjoy yourself with the guys and gals. It's fun. You know, the continuing story of building our whole culture here and for the OPSB guys who really miss the name. So I guess that's one of my biggest regrets, that we lost that name and that culture. But I feel like it exists with the current club. I feel like this club is my club, and it is the melded club, and I'm proud of it. Very proud. This is the amalgamation of us all. And it has been for many, many years now. Player after player came here because of this stuff. You know, the high level of coaching and the competition with BC, and just the high level of everything we do here. So what a great, you know, tradition it is. It's going to live on. It's going to go on. It's going to get better for both women and men. And boy, I hope everybody can, find a way to help in whatever they can with their time or treasure. That's all you got.